Hey. Who's is it? JP?
Those are my ballots.
These are your ballots?
Yeah, thank you. I was looking for those.
Where did you get those?
I got them in Chicago a few weeks ago. They're just giving them out.
Oh, great. Kind of like Chipotle napkins, huh?
Kind of. Pretty good.
Let's save America! Check it out, I'm an eagle! Ah! Ha! America! Woo! Die, commies! Well, we're getting close to November 5th, the day America votes, and the day we will finally find out, after months of waiting, we will at last be told how much longer we need to wait before learning who wins the presidential election. Will it be a few days? 3 weeks? 2 months? Or will the results be easy to understand with no discrepancies or shenanigans? What a fun thing to think about. We don't even know. This opening segment brought to you by Xanax and white wine. Now that's an American breakfast. I hope your election season is going as smoothly as mine. Now, we all know that many factors influence the outcome of presidential campaigns, but I'm not referring to minor details like incriminating evidence found on laptops or threats to take away free speech. I'm talking about something far more impactful: nicknames. I know a lot about nicknames. In junior high, my friends used to call me all kinds of fun nicknames, like f***it, or r***ard, or dumbass. Hey, you're supposed to bleep those all out.
I thought that was your name.
What? What did you think the name of the show is?
Dumbass Saves America?
Now, even though they've always been used for people of status, nicknames weren't such a prominent part of the political landscape until Donald Trump's rise in 2015, when he began dropping bars such as Crooked Hillary or Jeff Bozo. But you might be surprised to learn that Trump and many other politicians are not always coming up with these zingers on their own. For more, we welcome professional nickname ghostwriter Sean Huge Penis Lots of Money Richardson. Hello, Sean. Yeah, hey Brent, good to be here. So Sean, you've actually built an entire career on giving people nicknames, is that correct? Yeah, that's right. In high school, I was the class bully, so it's nice to be able to make a living off of my passion, you know? And that passion would be making people cry with shame. Incredible. So how have you seen the nickname landscape evolve over the years? So the Trump campaign first brought me on in 2016 to help with Trump's nicknames. I think he had used Lion Hillary and Crooked Hillary, but he was running out of adjectives. And, you know, being an equal opportunity hater, such as myself, I started doing work with the liberals on the left as well. They're not quite as clever, but they pay much better. You know, both sides just want to make their base as angry as possible. And planting a solid nickname on your opponent, well, it's just a great way to drive the hatred that's fueling this country. And vice presidential nominee Tim Walz was pretty new on the scene when you first gave him a nickname. Did you have to scramble to make that happen? Oh, well, I had my pen on Tim Walz for a while. You remember how he encouraged citizens of Minnesota to report on their neighbors for disobeying various COVID rules? Yep, Yeah, well, back then I had written down Tim Tattletale Walz as a possibility. Then a short while after that, my personal favorite became Tim Burn Down the Walls. Get that? But Tampon Tim just had a certain ring to it, and it made the most sense. So, yeah, I got writer's credit on that one. Yeah. Now, you're not only driving hatred through the invention of new nicknames, but you're also assisting in crafting fictional stories about various politicians. That's right, like the whole J.D. Vance had sex with a couch thing, or Tim Walz drank a gallon of horse semen. See, both of those were mine. You know, the trick to creating a fake story that everyone will believe is that it has to seem believable. Tim Walz looks like the kind of guy who might actually blow a horse, while J.D. Vance has resting intercourse with an ottoman face. So what are you working on now? Well, I'm thinking about dropping a story about Kamala being addicted to huffing lighter fluid, but I just need to make sure that's not true first, because it seems kind of possible. Well, That all sounds wonderful. Now, before you go, Sean, just for fun, I haven't been given a nickname in quite a while. Would you mind? What do you think would work for me? Yeah. Well, let's see. You're a comedian. You're a white guy. You kind of play both sides of the aisle and have a vaguely centrist yet slightly right-leaning point of view, but you don't outwardly lean too far right for fear of being grouped into one part of the political spectrum. You're a bit too scared to come all the way out in support of Donald Trump. You're outspokenly in support of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and you're not a huge fan of Kamala, but you get some of the things that she's trying to do. I guess the best nickname for you would probably be Dumbass. Oh. Thanks, Sean. We'll be right back. Up next, we'll dive deep into who is really gonna ruin this country. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Thanks, Brent. It's election season, so if you want to be misled by all the propaganda as much as we want you to, you need to stay away from ground news. If you go to ground.news/awaken, you'll see exactly why ground news is the #1 enemy of the mainstream media. They unfortunately bring transparency to the news, allowing you to be informed rather than misled. You'll find all the election news you want to be informed about, except ground news unfortunately tells you who exactly is funding which media outlets, what their political bias is, and you can even sort articles based on that bias. And you'll probably also love ground news's blind spot feature, which shows you what the media isn't telling you. Once again, if you want to be a dutiful sheep, you want to be sure to avoid going to ground.news/awaken. Once you're there and you see who's funding the news you're getting and what their political bias is, you'll be able to understand why they're spinning it the way they are. And that's empowering for you, but disempowering for us, so we don't like it. So if you're tired of being misled, but you want to be informed, go to ground.news/awaken or click the link below or the QR code you see on your screen right now. When you use this link, you save 40% off your subscription. Now back to you, Brent.
Now, in addition to nicknames, politicians often find other ways of verbally insulting each other, like branding one another as communist, fascist, or not alive. That last one was more of a logical observation than an insult. One particularly damning term that's been thrown around a lot this election season has been threat to democracy. So much so that I don't really know what it even means anymore. It seems like someone can be called a threat to democracy for just about anything. Did you put the roll of toilet paper on backwards? You're a threat to democracy. Do you believe a hot dog is a type of sandwich? You're a threat to democracy. Do you clap when the plane lands? You're annoying. Don't do that. But these days, even holding logical beliefs and reasonable opinions can make you a threat to democracy in someone else's eyes. And I'm not just talking about the logical beliefs that Tim Walz holds.
There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
As much as I hate hate speech, it's allowed, and it's protected by the amendment that you seem to not really like very much. But if misinformation truly isn't covered by free speech, then how do you explain this? Here's a tweet from Kamala talking about how Trump will sign a national abortion ban and create the position of an anti-abortion coordinator, even though he said multiple times out loud that he won't do that. So, I don't know, get her, Tim. Get her with your anti-misinformation tampon nunchucks. Look, I'm not a journalist, okay? But by admitting that, I'm already more honest than most journalists. I just really want to figure out if anyone truly is a threat to democracy, or if we're throwing around that term as casually as a Democrat brags about having Dick Cheney's support. So in my quest to understand, I sat down with comedian, co-host of Gutfeld, and pregnant woman Kat Timpf to see if we could figure out what's really threatening democracy.
Kat Timpf, we're going to start on the deep end here, if you don't mind.
Cool.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
I love it.
You do?
But I don't get to have it very often because nobody else, I don't want to eat a whole pizza and nobody else wants that.
Well, just to let you know, based on that answer, half of this country would consider you a threat to democracy.
I'm sure they would. They already do.
How does that make you feel?
You know, it makes me feel, I'm almost desensitized to it at this point, sadly.
When somebody uses the term threat to democracy, what is the first thing that comes to mind for you?
I wrote a lot about this in my new book. It's called I Used to Like You Until I'm actually just realized I'm wearing the book the book
it's
shirt.
not
I
shameless
just realized
self-promotion.
it.
It's good. Yeah, it's good.
But so honestly, I cover research in the book that shows that moral outrage is more often rooted in self-interest than it is altruism. So basically, the worse people feel about a problem or the more guilt they feel or powerless over it, they feel better, more motivated to direct it at a third party, and then they feel better when they do. And it does a lot of things for politicians, right? If the other side is evil, then if you vote for me, because the other side's evil, is a lot more motivating than vote for me for pretty much any other reason. So I think a lot of it can be used in a manipulative way.
Yeah, it feels like today political opponents are not your opponent. They're not the opposition anymore. They're the enemy.
They're the enemy, and not only are they the enemy, but anyone who votes for them or supports them is the enemy.
Yeah.
And that's why you really lose me.
Do you think there's any real example of being a threat to democracy as it's being used, particularly in this year's election? It's thrown back and forth. Have you seen anything that would be a real threat?
So I honestly think that talking like this is a real threat, because the more divided we are, the easier we are to control, and we're kind of manipulated into being afraid of stuff, and then people will willingly kind of give up their own rights, and both sides do the fear mongering of, you know, think of the children, or think of this, or national security, and a lot of that is fear mongering, and the government has a lot to gain from that, and media has a lot to gain from that. And I know I work in the media, but I'm willing to call that out totally. And I use my platform to call this stuff out.
Mm-hmm. Do you think candidates are taking advantage of their platform in a way that's consciously manipulating people with this type of rhetoric? Or do you think they're just spitting it out, not knowing the type of impact it's going to have on the country's divide?
You know, I think it's a mix of both. I think that a lot of times people don't really think about it. I think that once you just pick a side, the thinking's kind of been done for you, and you don't have to do too much thinking. But also, of course, it's extremely effective. It's extremely effective. And, you know, it's also, everybody likes to feel like a good person. And what an easy way to feel like a good person, just by being on the right side. If everybody on the other side is horrible and evil, then you get to be good just because you're not on that side. The problem is, of course, you haven't actually done anything.
So how do you reach somebody that's in that space? Like somebody who maybe, you know, if I give your book to a family member or friend, and they say, oh, I don't need that because this election really matters. This is the fate of the world is in the 2024 election.
I think vulnerability is the answer, and I think that's why in my book I tell a lot of really deep and also embarrassing, but also vulnerable stories, talk about things I've never talked about before in my whole entire life. Because I think that if you're willing to show that you're human, people are more likely to see each other as human, right? And my book's already made a difference. I had a woman come up to me at my show yesterday and say, you made me change my mind about drag queens, because I love drag queens.
They're a good time.
Many conservatives suddenly now don't like drag queens. They've become controversial in recent years in a way they didn't used to be, and I kind of go into that in my book. And I think by being willing to say, hey, you know, I've got this issue, that issue, focusing on the human stuff that we have in common, really. And this book is a guide for how to do that. But also there's a lot of wild stories in it that make it interesting enough to people will enjoy reading it. Because, yeah, there is this problem with, well, I'm going to listen to that right now.
Now, instead of marry, kill, I want to play a round of vote for, deport, or imprison.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Bill Gates, Hillary Clinton, P. Diddy.
Oh man, you have to imprison P. Diddy.
I think so.
I mean,
he's on his way.
And then vote for, deport. I feel like Bill Gates and Hillary Clinton are very similar.
Yeah.
They're the same. So I would say maybe deport Bill Gates and vote for. They're the equal to me.
See,
honestly.
but what if we vote for Bill Gates?
And then he would get Hillary back. But I think
but we could impeach him right away.
Yeah.
And then just get him out of there. There's got to be some type of law.
There's got to be some, because I just feel like Hillary and Bill Gates, they seem so. I feel like they're on the same plane.
Yes.
In a lot of ways for me. But then P. Diddy, obviously. What if I was like, listen, vote for P. Diddy?
He's got some great points.
People would have said that probably like a year ago.
100%.
Man, he's had a rough year.
Yeah. No, Hillary and Bill Gates are definitely on the same plane.
They kind of are.
The plane is called the Lolita Express. Vote for, deport, imprison, Kanye, Dick Cheney, Gavin Newsom's hair.
You vote for the hair.
Why is that? Just strength and sturdiness?
Yeah,
in hard times?
It's the hair of a leader. I don't like a lot of Gavin Newsom's policies, but the hair, let's see. Dick Cheney, I can't decide if in prison or deport, but definitely I'm like, which one? I maybe in prison, Dick Cheney. Who was the other one?
Kanye.
Yeah, but I don't want to deport Kanye either. I mean,
I might vote for Kanye.
Yeah, you can't imprison Kanye.
No, because then we lose the art.
To be honest, if there's Kanye in a headline, who doesn't click on it?
Yeah.
Whether that's good or bad is not what I'm talking about. All I'm saying is for the internet entertainment alone, people see Kanye and then I'm clicking on it.
Yeah, 100%.
So if he's in prison,
can't do that.
Yeah.
We lose a huge part of American culture.
Yeah,
we can't have that.
The New York Post would have to lay off like 10 people, and I don't want to see people lose their jobs.
Yes. Okay. Vote for, deport, imprison. Kamala Harris was raised in a middle-class family.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, she was raised in a middle-class family, so that's how I should have been answering all these questions.
Right, you did answer the previous two wrong, but
Yeah,
you do have a chance here to make up for that.
Well,
if you'd like.
I was raised in a middle-class family, which means that nothing is ever my fault.
That's right.
I don't have to explain anything,
Preach.
and not voting for me is actually violence.
That's right. I'm sorry for being phobic, and you have my full support.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit more about your book. What was, did you have any moment that really inspired the book? Was there any particular catalyst for you to be like, I need to put this on paper?
Well, it's my life, basically, because I'm independent politically, but I work at Fox News, so I get it from the viewers at Fox sometimes. If I say something that does not align with Republicans, conservatives, then I'll get hate from them. But then people on the other side will give me hate because I work there in the first place. And also going on tour and going to all these different cities all around the country and meeting all these different people who are very different, you realize that as different as people are, a lot of us really want a lot of the same things. We just have different ideas of how to get there. And there's a lot of manipulation going on from government, from media, people who really have things to gain from us being divided. And we're really losing a lot.
You know, Kat, it's been a pleasure to get to know you. And on a scale of 0 to threat to democracy, I think you're a good person.
Thank you. That's a lot nicer than the scale that some people would put in the emails they send me.
Don't step on that scale.
Yeah.
You don't need to see the results.
That's how I feel about scales in general right now because I'm pregnant. Yeah, I don't need to know.
Well, look, thank you for coming. I do have a parting gift for you. This is 47 ballots for the upcoming election.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, pulled that out of a mailbox earlier today. They're blank, so just keep them in your car just in case.
Cool.
But thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you.
Go check out Kat's new book, I Used to Like You Until, out now everywhere. Our savior of the week this week is Kamala Harris's accent coach. Whoever you are, you're doing a great job. Kamala displayed a new accent on The Colbert Show last week. Let's take a listen.
Have empathy, man. For
Jaman, I mean, Kamala is truly bringing people together of all backgrounds and all ethnicities by becoming people of all backgrounds and all ethnicities. And if each of her new personas are able to vote, this might be a closer election than we think. Hey, thanks for watching, y'all. You can catch me on tour doing stand-up shows in Houston, St. Petersburg, Florida, Phoenix, Arizona, and Portland, Oregon coming up. All the tickets and info is at brentpella.com/shows, and you're welcome for my service.